I asked you this in the first part of the episode
No,
that
you
we
didn't.
did.
See what I did? I gaslit you.
I guess you're right. Um,
End scene. Okay.
yes. I. How do you handle as a professional when you're sitting across from an addict and they are gaslighting you? Do you feel the need to factually prove them wrong so they can see it's gaslighting? Or do you just kind of let it happen and continue on and just what they don't know that you actually know is fine?
Okay. I wouldn't jokingly say, man, you're so good at interviewing and asking questions. I'm like, wait a minute, that's what Josh does as well. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
so no wonder you're good at it. Um, it's because I love the question because you want, this is where when I'm talking about my rules of engagement with the emotionally mature narcissist is this whole self-care and get your PhD in gaslighting and get out of unproductive conversations and set boundaries. But the last one is you will never give them the aha moment or the epiphany. It has to come from them. And so when I get all nerdy and excited about my marriage communication tool, my 4 pillars of a connected conversation, I still employ this. So my first pillar is I'm assuming good intentions, or there's a reason why they're doing what they're doing. They didn't wake up and say, "Oh, I can't wait till I just say the most ridiculous things," and that'll get them. And my second pillar is you cannot tell the person that's ridiculous or I don't believe you, even if you know what they're saying is completely false, because then they will then start to argue and you're going to get down into the weeds and there will never be accountability. So my third thing is questions before comments. So then if they're saying, oh yeah, I was when I used to play pro baseball, whatever, I'm like, if I want to say you didn't play pro baseball, because I know you didn't play pro baseball, but if I'm like, oh man, assuming good intentions or there's a reason why they're saying what they're saying, this is because they have a childhood wound that they were never got attention, and now when they say they play pro baseball, everybody goes, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And then my second pillar is I can't say no, or you're dumb, or that's ridiculous, even though I think it is. And pillar three, oh, tell me more about it. Like, tell me about playing pro baseball. What did you love about it? Because Josh, this is a real example where when I was in my early 20s, I moved to a new town. These people from the local church congregation stopped by, and I had just had a failed attempt of trying to play Division I college baseball because I'd gotten run over by a boat. I know you interviewed me on my second 100
Right.
episode of the Virtual Couch. So I'm still from this place of like, I could have been a contender. And then I have a guy show up in my house and he says, what do you like to do? And I'm still bitter. And I'm saying, I played baseball. And he's like, oh, I was going to play professional baseball, but I wanted to play in the American League and only a National League team drafted me. And so, oh, I love your reaction because I was like, that is, I would have played, I would have played for a made up league. Like, I don't
Yeah.
care. I mean, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I was, 20 something. I'm like, what? So, okay, did you play like minor league then? Or did you play, like, what college did you play? And he's like, oh man, this is such a blur. I don't even like to talk about it. Well, later I found out that guy talked about his time as a runway model, his time as this was a pathological narcissistic gaslighting person. But back to my pillars, pillar three then is on that one, I'm like, oh, tell me about it. Like, what was that like? Or, tell me about some of your stories of playing in college, or, what was did you have an agent, when you went through the draft, or did you, whatever it would be. And the guy would be like, and that's where the person becomes exposed. And so then back to your question. So I'm sitting across the office, somebody, and that's where I'm doing. I'm like, if they're saying, and like, he says something like, how I lost all my money in crypto, then instead of gambling or porn, then if I'm like, oh, what? Okay, crypto, tell me about that. So what? Yeah, I've got a bunch of cryptocurrency as well. What'd you buy? And he's like, oh man, what didn't I buy? Well, no, what? Like, tell me, give me one, and tell me, like, take me, and then the person will then eventually say, you know what? I don't know. Can we talk about something else? Because I've got something really heavy on my mind, So then it's like I feel like there's a moment where he knows that I know, and I definitely know. And
Yeah.
so because if I start to say you didn't play, or you don't have cryptocurrency, now to the emotionally mature, oh, now he's like, whew, okay, I know what to do with this. Yes, I did. No, you don't understand. You're a quack. Now they know to push all the buttons to get me angry, so then they can go, oh my gosh, I can't even believe I paid money to come in here, and now you're the one that's already, because instead it's like, oh, well, that's fascinating. Yeah, because I would have played for any
Right.
team known to man. So that's wild. I'd love to talk to you more about that sometime. But then that person is going to be like, I will never talk about my made up pro baseball career again, you know?
Let me ask you, in your situation where you were a very good player, where you may have had some looks. I'm not saying that you do this, but I know that there are, and you just mentioned one. I know that there are a lot of people who are like, well, if it hadn't been for this, I would have played.
Yeah.
And while that guy obviously just wants to be special,
Yeah.
when it comes to a missed opportunity like the
Oh, I love this.
baseball, that is
Yeah.
not your fault necessarily. Is it gaslighting of yourself to tell yourself you would have made it to the
Oh.
major leagues if not for the boat accident? Is that a healthy thing to do? Is that gaslighting yourself
So I
to feel
love this
better about
question.
the situation?
I feel like this is one I actually feel like I've had to go through, and I feel like it becomes why I love acceptance and commitment therapy so much because I just have to accept that it happened, and then if my brain says you really were a really good player, like you really were, you best bad ball hitter of whatever, and all state, and this and that, then it's like it's like you were, and then the acceptance is like, oh, I totally was, and then the brain says, and you could have been something and that would have changed your life, then it's like, oh yeah, maybe, and then back to the present. But here I am, and I feel like because this is where people then will spend more time ruminating, and then and in the world of acceptance commitment therapy, we say that the brain is adorable, that it thinks that in order to orient yourself in the current moment, that you must ruminate about the past and then worry about the future. But the tool for both of those is like in the past, it's like, man, that stinks. I can't even believe that happened. If that would have happened, who knows what the future would have been like. And acceptance is like, totally. Yeah. Okay. Because I can't give that any more emotional calories or bandwidth. And then the future is like, but boy, now what if you don't end up living by the beach like you always thought you would? What if you're whatever? And then it's like, oh yeah, that would be hard. And back to the present because when you notice that you're ruminating. So I like your question. It's funny because where I thought you were going with that was I really, because those were all true, but was I really as good as I thought I was? And
Yeah.
I had a moment. So I've done a lengthy ultra marathon running career, 100-mile races, 50-mile races, whatever. And here's where I think that the reality of life kicks in, where I'd always told myself, oh, if I had not been hurt, I'd be a pro baseball player, or if I had been 6'5", I would be a pro basketball player. And then I was one day I look around the ultra marathoning world, and the guys that are winning the races are they were 40-year-old guys that were attorneys that had kids that had, and I realized, oh, I'm just not actually as good of an athlete as I always thought I was. And it was almost like liberating. And I'm like, oh, I'm a mid packer, that.
Yeah.
So, let's say that I would have been able to get the D1 thing, whatever. I probably would not have worked my butt off like the people that do, because I wouldn't have, because I'm not the farm boy strong, and I didn't, trying to grit my way out of this ghetto. Or so I
Yeah.
probably would have played some D1 ball my junior year. I probably would have gotten replaced by a farm boy from Iowa, and then I would have
Yeah.
said, yeah, this kind of stinks. That's truthfully
Yeah.
what would have happened. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that odds are that is a version of what would happen. So
Absolutely.
few
Right.
people ever make it to the major leagues by holding on to a story that
Yeah.
number one isn't true, and
Yeah.
number two probably would not have been true had it played out its natural
Exactly.
course.
Yeah.
Are you gaslighting yourself? Are you holding on to something? Are you in telling your wife every night, man, if only I would have made it to the majors?
Totally.
I was one of the best.
you're,
Are you
you're
gaslighting her at that time, or are you gaslighting yourself?
or C, all of the above. But I love it because
Yeah.
I feel like if anything, it goes back to that you're not being in the present moment, and you're making you're becoming this victim, because had it, I could have been a contender, and versus the acceptance that, oh, that didn't happen, and here I am. I like that because I feel like all that stuff does play into that, because that would make me uncomfortable if I feel like I could have been a star and now I'm working in an insurance agency 9 to 5, and I don't like my boss Kevin because he's a real tool, but I could
Hmm.
have been a contender. Now I'm saying, so now I don't even have to participate in life right now because it's unfair. And so then my brain's like, well, there's a way we can cope. And so I almost feel like, oh, that's one of those stories my brain's telling me just so that I can feel bad about myself, so that I can then tune out to whatever the coping mechanism of choice is. So I don't know. That's like I love that question because you. I mean, I know we're kind of out of time, but you had a film festival and a magazine editing and
Hmm.
stuff. I mean, so do you ever feel like if the things hadn't have happened to you, you would be, I don't know, Josh Can. I don't know who does the Can Film
No, yeah,
Festival.
no, because I think that what I decided was I figured out it's for me, I would rather be a big fish in a small pond
Hmm.
than a medium fish in a medium pond,
Yeah.
or a small fish in a giant pond.
Yeah.
Um, I think my ego just needed. It's easy uh, to go to the front of the pack when the pack's not very big, or many don't want to do the same thing as you.
Yeah.
It was easy to be the first to start a film festival where I live because nobody ever did it before, because nobody ever wanted to do it. Um, it wasn't that I was anything special. I didn't invent the concept of a film festival.
Yeah.
I just took it and brought it to where I lived, much like the magazine thing. I never made myself think that I had invented the wheel. All
Yeah.
I did was bring the wheel to a bunch of people who were like, when are we getting a wheel?
You're like, I guess I'll do it.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is that I think in some ways I got so many compliments around that time of my life when I was when I was creating this film festival, when I was putting out this local magazine that tapped into pride. Even when I was on the city council, the
Oh,
amount
that's
of
right.
people who kissed my butt in hopes that they could get something from me.
Yeah.
I look back now and think, oh my God, these people tried to gaslight me all the time
Totally. Yeah. And
to
you
get
like the
space in the
validation in a sense?
magazine, or to get,
Yeah.
to be able to meet the celebrity we had at the film festival or whatever it is. People would always try to get stuff from me. And all these years later, not knowing and being in the lives of 99% of the people who I worked with and who I saw on a daily basis, gee, it wasn't about Josh the person. It was
Yeah.
about Josh the who could get me something.
Totally.
And I allowed myself to be gaslit to thinking that, oh, they think I'm a wonderful guy. And,
And that
this
felt
is,
good, right?
I am talented. And it's almost like, you try to ignore the negative self talk.
Yeah.
I learned you have to almost ignore the positive outside talk.
Yeah. Or else you will get your
You'll believe
ego
it.
so inflated.
You'll believe the gaslighting.
Yeah. Oh, that was well said, even though now we can both agree that gaslighting isn't really like a big deal, right? It's not a real thing. That's a funny thing. Gaslighting isn't a real thing. That was a funny meme going around. See, I can do memes.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. You're hip and happening and with
Oh,
it.
I was very good at it. That was one of the best. Yeah.
On to number 9,
Yep. I will then see you next time,
and make
Josh.
sure we both wear our blue shirts. I know
That's right. Yeah, we got to
we
roll.
didn't we didn't coordinate, but geez, it looks like we did.
It did.
We should be golfing after this, or
Exactly. I was one
yeah,
of the best golfers too, by the way.
I know.
Just ask me.
You're just awesome.
I'll tell you
You're
more
just
about it. I'll
awesome.
let you see my trophies maybe next time you're in the area.
Can I touch your trophies?
Uh, don't get
Okay.
ahead of yourself. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
See you next time.
Next time.